Today, we're diving into a popular post from the Reddit titled as, "I'm Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak, ask me anything." This post received 48,810 upvotes. Posted by the Steve Wozniak. The post reads as follows. Hi Reddit, I'm Steve Wozniak. I will be participating in a Reddit AMA to answer any and all questions. I promise to answer all questions honestly, in totally open fashion, even when the answer is that I don't have an answer to a specific question or that I don't know enough to answer it. I recently shot an interview with Reddit as part of their new series Formative, in which I talk about the early days of Apple. You can watch it here. https://www.youtube.com/watch?v=extremepezlcway. The founding of Apple is often greatly misunderstood. I like clearing the air about those times. I like to talk about my ideas for entrepreneurs with humble starts, like we had. I have always cared deeply about youth and education, whether in or out of school. I fought being changed by Apple's success. I never sought wealth or power, and in fact evaded it. I was able to finish my degree in EE and CS and to fulfill a lifelong goal to teach 5th graders, 8 years, up to teaching 7 days a week, public schools, no press allowed. I try to reach audiences of high school and college and slightly beyond people because of how important those times were in my own development. What I taught was less important than motivating students to learn. Nothing can stop them in that case. I'm still a gadgeteer at heart. I buy a lot of prominent gadgets, including different platforms of computers and mobile devices, because everything different excites me. I think about what I like and dislike about such things. I think about the course technology has taken since early PC days and what that implies about the future. I think often about possible negative aspects of what we've brought to the world. I try to develop totally independent ideas about a lot of things that are never heard in other places. That was my design style too. I admire good engineers and teachers greatly, even though they are not treated as royalty or paid a fraction of other professions. I try to be a very middle-level person and to live my life around normal fun people. I do many things to effect that I don't consider myself more important than anyone else. I had my lifetime philosophies down by around age 20 and I am thankful for them. I never needed something like Apple to be happy. Finally, I'm hosting the Silicon Valley Comic Con this weekend, March 18 to 19th, so come check it out. You can buy tickets here. Steve Wozniak and Friends present Silicon Valley Comic Con. http://svcomiccon.com/question_GCLID=CMQVLMS-XMSCFSFCFGOD9 Oddmoo proof. http://imager.com/xi5 proof. https://twitter.com/stevewaz/status/7099831612126003221 Edit. I'd like to thank everyone who came in with questions for this AMA. It was delightful to hear the questions and answer them, but I also enjoyed hearing all your little screen names. Some of those I wanted to comment on being very creative. I always like things that have a little bit of humor and fun and entertainment built into the productivity work of our lives. A comment from user Matt Baster says, "What is Tim Cook doing right, wrong, in your opinion?" This comment received 3946 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "Tim Cook is acknowledging the employees of Apple and the customers of Apple as real people. He is continuing a strong tradition that Steve Jobs was known for, of making good products that help people do things they want to do in their life, and not taking the company into roads of, oh, we'll make all our money like by knowing you and advertising to you. We'll make good products. And you know, I started out as a hardware product guy, so I'm glad to see that. I worry a little bit about. I mean, I love my Apple Watch, but it's taken us into a jewelry market where you're going to buy a watch between $500 or $1,100 based on how important you think you are as a person. The only difference is the band in all those watches. 20 watches from $500 to $1,100. The band's the only difference? Well, this isn't the company that Apple was originally, or the company that really changed the world a lot. So it might be moving, but you've got to follow, you know. You've got to follow the paths of where the markets are. Everything else. I'm very approving of Tim Cook. Because every time we have a new iOS update, I'm very happy that it's doing things that really affect people. Like transferring calls from my phone to my computer, etc. I really love even the AirPlay, and all that. So, I love the software, and I love the hardware, and nothing's letting me down. So I approve very strongly of Tim Cook and the new Apple. I dearly miss Steve Jobs too, but that's all. This reply received 8227 upvotes. A comment from user C20_H25_N3_0 says, "What are your thoughts on the FBI, DOJ versus Apple ordeal at the moment?" This comment received 6979 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "All through my time with personal computers from the start, I developed an attitude that things like movement towards newer, better technologies, like the Macintosh computer, like the touchscreen of the iPhone, that these were making the human more important than the technology. We did not have to modify our ways of living. So the human became very important to me. And how do you represent what humanity is? You know what? I have things in my head. Some very special people in my life that I don't talk about. That mean so much to me from the past. Those little things that I keep in my head are my little secrets. It's a part of my important world, my whole essence of my being. I also believe in honesty. If you tell somebody, I am not snooping on you, or, I am giving you some level of privacy, I will not look in your drawers, then you should keep your word and be honest. And I always try to avoid being a snoop myself, and it's rare in time that we can look back and say, how should humans be treated? Not, how can the police run everything? I was brought up in a time when communist Russia under Stalin was thought to be, everybody is spied on, everybody is looked into, every little thing can get you secretly thrown into prison. And, no, we had our Bill of Rights. And it's just dear to me. The Bill of Rights says some bad people won't do certain bad things because we're protecting humans to live as humans. So, I come from the side of personal liberties. But there are also other problems. Twice in my life I wrote things that could have been viruses. I threw away every bit of source code. I just got a chill inside. These are dangerous, dangerous things. And if some code gets written in an Apple product that lets people in, bad people are going to find their way to it, very likely. This reply received 13,076 upvotes. A comment from user Halewis_ says, "Steve, what's the greatest invention that you wished you designed?" This comment received 3021 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "That question might be too hard for any human being. Greatest invention. I just described one. Which was a device to pop anywhere, real tiny, into a glove compartment, a backpack, whatever, and be able to locate it, wherever it is in the world. There are some devices that kind of claim that now, but they don't really work sufficiently. A device that gives us 1 extra hour per day?" This reply received 4,182 upvotes. A reply from user Moonsprite says, "I bet it's the Zune." This reply received 1238 upvotes. A comment from user Happy Jackies Happy says, "Thank you for doing this, Steve. Even though you left in 1985, what was your relationship with the company like after, and how has that changed compared to now? Are you, for example, allowed to go and visit any colleagues that still work there, or are you simply another outsider?" This comment received 900 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "Well, obviously Apple is the most important thing ever in my life, and it would be no matter what I might go off and try to do outside and say. No, I would only say one thing, I am Apple. When I left in 85, the same as when I left in 81, I actually remained an employee on a slight payroll. I had a letter from Apple wishing me luck. I sat on a blackboard and showed them what my intent was to go and create as a product, and there was absolutely no conflict. I like to live a life where kinda everyone likes me. I'm just not bad. If somebody is bad to me, I'm still good to them. Somehow I grew up with these values that seem kind of incredible, so I always was on good terms with Apple and they always liked me. I'm always welcome. I could come by. Steve Jobs would always make sure I had a badge that could get me into any building. I didn't use it much, but I can go there. The only trouble is I'll get mobbed. This reply received 2415 upvotes. A comment from user Andim Brit says, "What is the most funny prank that you've pulled?" This comment received 1807 upvotes. A reply from the original author the Steve Wozniak says, "You, Andy M. Brit. I get asked that everywhere. I have pulled so many hundreds of pranks. I pull pranks almost every day. So I can't come up with one funniest prank. Sometimes I like to talk about early ones. When I was so young, how could I have thought of it? I did like the one where I put a little ticking electronic metronome in a school locker. Back when very few people could build such things as a ticking metronome. And I had it rigged so that when you opened the locker, a little tinfoil switch caused the ticking to speed up." This reply received 5535 upvotes. A comment from user Tiger_Style36 says, "What is your opinion on how immersive our technology is becoming? We use computers in some form, almost constantly. Do you ever feel in your own life that it becomes overwhelming?" This comment received 1738 upvotes. A reply from the original author the Steve Wozniak says, "I have that feeling all the time because I like a nice, quiet, simple life. I grew up shy. I'm more into products than I'm into socializing. And I do not carry around my phone answering every text message instantly. I am not one of those people. I wait until I'm alone in my places and get on my computer and do things where I think I'm more efficient. I really see a lot of people that are dragged into it, but I don't criticize them. When you have change, it's not that the change in how people are behaving different to you is bad or good, it's just different. So that's sort of the modern way, and the millennials. Every generation wants to criticize the next generation for missing out on things like personal human contact. But I'll tell you a little story. When we started Apple, Steve Jobs and I talked about how we wanted to make blind people as equal and capable as sighted people, and you'd have to say we succeeded when you look at all the people walking down the sidewalk looking down at something in their hands and totally oblivious to everything around them. This reply received 7269 upvotes. A comment from user_TX says, "Do you still tinker?" This comment received 331 upvotes. A reply from the original author the Steve Wozniak says, "I don't tinker the way I did in the old days. The last time I tinkered was to build a little Segway key burner where I could twist some dials, set my own speed codes on it, and tell the Segway how fast it was allowed to go. I keep my soldering iron and tools handy, but I have such a busy life. Public speaking, I'm with a company that's working on storage and data centers. I'm putting on Comic Cons. Such a busy life. It's hard to get the time to tinker, but I admire the young people and my older friends who do that. I just admire them so greatly. It's really where the great future products are going to come from. I think it's much less important to get somebody who has PhDs in all these subjects. If you can find somebody who never went to college but has built a lot of things as a tinkerer, knows how to operate the equipment, run into their own little garage or laboratory quickly and whip something out, that's the person that companies are missing out on, and all their requisition requirements overlook those people. I can admire the tinkerers." This reply received 973 upvotes. A comment from user Nevuary says, "Who was the first person to call you, Woz?" This comment received 404 upvotes. A reply from the original author the Steve Wozniak says, "I don't remember who first called me Woz. I remember that nickname started coming to me when I was working at Hewlett-Packard, 73, 74, 75, around the start of Apple for some reason. So that became sort of a name I used to identify myself with Apple and the new products. I found out later in life that almost every Wozniak gets the nickname Woz over time. Their friends just start calling them that. My uncle is Uncle Woz. My son, his friends call him Woz, and I turn to my kid and I realize they're talking to Gary instead. So it goes back. It's just nice. I like short, simple things in technology. So I like shortening my name. I like shortening my signature. And what a privilege to grow up like Sting, where one word and people know who you are. This reply received 902 upvotes. A comment from user IAM Not Even Sorry says, "Do you like how you were portrayed in the Apple movies, Jobs and Steve Jobs? Who did a better job? Seth Rogen or Josh Gad? What did they do completely wrong?" This comment received 2091 upvotes. A reply from user Dr. Pink Cream says, "Money says he signed a contract that won't let him answer this." This reply received 1811 upvotes. A comment from user SoberNoob3 says, "What do you consider the most difficult obstacle you've ever had to overcome?" This comment received 200 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "I had an easy life. I was so good in math, science, electronics, computers, way ahead of the world, that I would never have to worry about a job. So, I didn't even have obstacles of, how am I going to get a good job or do these things? Certainly in my early design days, I sometimes tackled problems that I didn't know if it was possible to solve, but when I'd get there I'd try to look for a solution, and somehow I always found it. Magic was pouring out of me, back in those days. In later times, well, I've had divorces. So I guess you could say those are obstacles in life that I regret. But sometimes you grow up with a geekish personality that isn't really very social, and I dunno, you wind up in places you shouldn't have been. Let's see, other obstacles. I described one earlier about a product I was trying to make, to locate things like pets and cars and briefcases. The obstacles that I ran into were whether I could come up with some magic ideas. And I did come up with at least one magic idea, but it didn't achieve the results I wanted in terms of price, power usage, and size. Basically, I think obstacles do a lot with dealing with people, and I work very independently, as far as I can, and then turn it over to others in very complete forms. So I didn't have a lot of the obstacles some people would talk about. Obviously, in business, we ran into obstacles at Apple. We all believed so much in doing the right thing, and building the Macintosh for the future rather than keeping with the dumb old computers of the past, and trying to achieve the world market. You know, holding our percentage of the world market as it grew 10 times. We let Microsoft have all that growth, because we believed in doing the right things. Would you ever look back and say you regretted it or it was an obstacle? No, it was something we had to work hard to finally build a Macintosh market, and get our company back. But, we did the right thing. This reply received 561 upvotes. A comment from user deleted user says, "Hi Steve. I remember hearing about how you invented the sound card from a dream you had. Have you dreamed up any new devices lately?" This comment received 187 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "I don't remember which sound card this is about. I actually do dream up devices that would be cool all the time, and I don't really form a list that I'm working on in my memory. I just keep them inside of me and they come up when they're needed. Usually I'm looking for an underlying technology developed by physics people and chemistry people on a new type of chip that didn't exist before that makes something possible that wasn't possible before. I had a startup company to make a little device that would be very low cost, you know, like $30 in the grocery store, and you could just pop in anywhere and the battery would last for a year, and it would be a little detection device that would notify you if your dog got out of the fence at home, or where your car is located if you forget, and I failed. I failed on technology grounds of cost, size, and the amount of power usage. But I swear to God, I just keep thinking all the time about the technology advances that would have to be done to make that device possible. So maybe I'll even get back to it someday." This reply received 378 upvotes. A comment from user Yay Pancakes says, "Are you happy that when you were actively developing hardware, you didn't have to deal with all the issues that arise around security of user data? Do you wish that there would have been more work around these issues back when you were innovating at Apple?" This comment received 561 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "Creating new things is hard enough on its own. You don't have time to think about, oh, there'll be security issues." Keep in mind that the original Apple computers, for quite a long time, were not connected to networks or the internet. They were just, the computer was in your hands. It would run a program that would help you with some of your daily work, or some problems you needed to solve. Today, our computers are just sitting out in data centers, and the devices in our hands are simply displaying what the data centers have taken all the information off of hard disks, assembled it, analyzed it, computed it, and sent it back to us. So really, our computers are anonymous. They're out there somewhere, and who knows what their safety and security level is. We didn't even have to think about that. Almost every time a technology is brand new, it leaves security as a later concern. Look at the phone system in the United States. When I was young, you could put tones into a United States phone if you learned about phone phreaking, and you could cause calls to be dialed for free anywhere in the world. Who would have thought the phone system would have such a simple flaw? Well, actually, they just didn't think people would be able to build tone generators in about forever. This reply received 1021 upvotes. A comment from user deleted user says, "What's your favorite Linux distro?" This comment received 1161 upvotes. A comment from user Whippet Good says, "Seeing as you're hosting a Comic Con, who's your favorite comic book character?" This comment received 833 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "You know what? I'd go back to the early days. There has to be a start of something, just like personal computers. You know, I'd go back to the old, boring, like Superman. You know, I like all of them about equally. I love all of the ones in the Avengers. I love Spider-Man, Batman. I don't have a personal favorite at all. It's just the whole genre, you know. Every one of them reaches me emotionally the same way as the others." This reply received 1106 upvotes. A comment from user Nifsregigroeg says, "What is your favorite up-and-coming gadget? Anything people don't know about yet?" This comment received 393 upvotes. A reply from the original author, the Steve Wozniak, says, "Well, I would think probably one of them is certainly the Oculus Rift, or any of the VR headsets. I love putting mine on and watching a basketball game live. It was just an experience that you can't believe. Sometimes I come out of a VR world, take off the helmet, and I can't believe I'm actually sitting in my office, at a desk at home. So, that's one of the big ones. Right now, Amazon Echo. It's getting so popular among the people that use it, and they speak so highly of it, and it's so inexpensive. I see a lot of developers that went into smartphones jumping onto that. It's a platform, and when you have a platform that everybody else is writing apps for and connecting to, basically they're advertising your company as much as you are. Obviously, I'm very interested in the evolution of self-driving cars. Right now, the assist that they give you for keeping in your lane and cruise control. The cruise control started back in 2004 actually, adjusting your distance. I love driving my Tesla so much, I just smile. I sit there in the driver's seat, and I kinda look over at my wife, and I just smile. I'm so happy, not using my hands or feet. So, I think the progression towards self-driving cars is going to be a good one. But it falls into that category of AI. Now, the AI that impresses me, I fell in love 10 years ago. Well, not 10 years ago, but whenever it started. Siri was an app you could buy for the iPhone, and I bought it. And for 1 year, Apple didn't have it. I just spoke of it as the app that changed my life, because I get to live as a human, saying things out of my head the way I would to another human, and a machine understands me. And I have wanted that to be the future for forever. Actually, ever since our Newton message pad, where I could type in, "Sarah, dentist, Tuesday, 2 p.m., and click the assist button, and it would open up the calendar. Tuesday at 2 p.m. It would put the word dentist asterisk, and it would grab Sarah out of my contact list. I hand wrote with my own muscles a message for myself, for a human, and a machine understood me. So, I want that to get better and better. Machines understanding what we mean, so that we can eventually communicate with them as our best, most trusted friends that know our own hearts and souls better than other humans. This reply received 12 10 up votes.